Hello, I'm Brian Galbraith, owner and founder of Galbraith Family Law. We're a law firm with divorce lawyers in both Barrie and Newmarket offices. Well, actually, we're everywhere now. We're working entirely remotely. And what we're finding is the tensions among people living together in isolation has really increased and made things much more difficult for our clients. We're getting questions about that. And so I've brought together three of our lawyers to discuss how to resolve some of the issues that might arise when tensions increase between you and your spouse in a bad relationship. And what can you do? So I've brought together Lynn and Rod and Caitlin. So we're going to talk about what can be done. So Rod, we've heard of people that are in a bad relationship and now they're stuck in isolation together in that home, and it's clear to them that the relationship needs to end, and but they're stuck in the same house. Is there a way to one spouse can ask the other to leave? Can you just change the locks? What can you do to get possession of that house and get the other person out?
Well, you can always ask the other spouse to leave, but they're under no obligation to do so. So under the law that even if the house is only owned by one of the spouses, both spouses have an equal right to possess the home, up until a point that a court says otherwise, or there's a separation agreement drafted that gives one of the spouses exclusive possession of the home.
But the courts are closed. Is it possible to go to the court to get an order to kick your spouse out of the house?
If the situation is urgent, and I believe Lynn will be talking a little bit more about that, it is possible to have one of the spouses to get an order for exclusive possession. However, in the majority of cases where there's not an urgent issue and it's simply that it's inconvenient or it's not the best scenario because you're arguing or whatnot, then no, you can't unilaterally change the locks. You can't prevent one of the spouses from coming into the home. As long as you are still spouses, you cannot unilaterally exclude one of the other spouse from the house unless a court says otherwise, or there is a legally binding separation agreement that gives one of the spouses exclusive possession of the home.
Yeah, I read that one case we were talking about it the other day, where someone was actually successful going to court. Do you remember the facts of that case?
Yeah, so that situation, typically the urgent cases surround domestic violence. However, in this case, it was a COVID-19 case where one of the spouses, the mother, had some severe health issues. She had a compromised immune system and other ailments that would make her particularly vulnerable in this time to infection. And the husband was seeing another woman. He was leaving the house to see her. He wasn't washing his hands when he came home. There was no indication that he was following the stipulated guidelines put in place by the government of Canada. And she actually went to court on an urgent basis, saying that her health could be adversely affected, or she could even potentially die if she contracted COVID-19 based on his kind of being irresponsible and not following the guidelines. So
Him being
we are
reckless.
seeing, we are seeing cases where it's the kind of background of what is urgent in under these situations can be thought of. Now that's an extreme case. It's not that just because one of your spouses the spouse is going out and may be irresponsible, that doesn't necessarily make it urgent. I think in this case, the unique facts were that she had a predisposition to being having severe health impacts if she contracted the virus.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, I remember in that case, the court was concerned of the impact on the children if she became ill or was hospitalized, and that was a concern as well. So, yeah, an interesting case, but like you said, most cases just wouldn't reach that threshold of urgency and probably wouldn't be able to get an exclusive possession order. You're better to try to negotiate some sort of an agreement if possible. But Lynn, can you imagine being stuck in isolation in a home when you're in a bad relationship? I just know that the shelters are overwhelmed with women that are being abused in these circumstances. Things are ratcheting up, and the tensions. Maybe someone's lost a job. There might be mental health issues or alcohol problems. Who knows? But it can result in some domestic abuse. If a woman approached you, and it's usually women that are the victims, not always, but usually, and said she'd been assaulted by her spouse, what would your advice be to her?
Yeah, Brian, the first thing that she should do would be to contact the police. That's very important. That's the initial step forward to getting out of an abusive relationship. She probably would have to go to the hospital if the assault was severe enough. The police will contact the Children's Aid Society, and the Children's Aid Society will get involved if there are children in the relationship. If she goes to a shelter, there's lots of support there. If not, then she has to go to a place of safety until such time as I or a Galbraith Family Law lawyer can bring this into court on an urgent basis. And the urgency has to prove imminent risk of harm. So we have to work very, very quickly to get a lot of documents prepared and filed with the court on what's called an ex parte motion, which is a motion without notice. So he will not be served with the motion material. He will eventually, if you get the court order, he will be served with that court order. And normally what's asked for in the court order would be a restraining order to restrain him from coming to the matrimonial home. There will be a custody order in place, and this is on an interim without prejudice basis, meaning that after he gets served with the court order, he can then put forward his side of the story. The other issue is, how are you going to support yourself and the children? So we'd be asking for as well an interim support order and exclusive possession of the matrimonial home. So those are the four things that we'd be asking for on an urgent basis. And we filed those materials with the court. There's right now in place a triage judge who will look at the materials and determine whether or not it is in fact urgent or not. So if it is urgent, it will then go to the step of a judge looking and reading the materials and making a ruling. And after that, the court order would be made, and there are people that are going to be serving these documents on the abusive partner, so that he's aware of the fact that there is a restraining order, that you're entitled to be in the home. My recommendation as well would be to, if you can, install video cameras around the home to keep yourself and the children safe.
Wow, that's great advice. But often times the case doesn't get as bad as an assault, fortunately. And Caitlin, so if you're in a bad relationship and you want to get out, maybe there's not urgent circumstances, and the courts are closed. Well, what do you do? How are people able to end bad relationships in these circumstances?
So the majority of our files at Galbraith Family Law are actually not court files. So we're assisting clients in negotiations with the other party or the other party's lawyer, as well as assisting them through other forms of alternative dispute resolution. So mediation is one option for the client. The parties would both meet with a neutral third party who would assist them in coming to an agreement that they were both satisfied with. The mediator can't provide legal advice to the parties, but will assist them to improve communication and resolve those disputes with them. If an agreement is reached in mediation, it's not legally binding, so the parties are advised to seek legal advice. The parties can bring their agreement to a lawyer at Galbraith Family Law, and we can assist them in preparing a legally binding separation agreement based on the agreements they've reached in mediation.
Right.
Another option would be collaborative practice. All the lawyers at Galbraith Family Law are trained in collaborative practice. So the parties would work with their collaborative family law lawyer, and they would meet with the other side and the other lawyer on several occasions so that they could come to an agreement on the terms, keeping in mind their legal rights. And then if a settlement is reached, we could again draft a legally binding separation agreement for the parties. So the benefit, sorry.
How do you do that? You said meet. No one's meeting these days, and our offices are physically closed. How are you doing meetings now?
Right. So our office is working through Zoom. So we would propose a four-way Zoom meeting between the other lawyer and the other party. And the Zoom meeting would take place the same as a meeting in person would take place.
Yeah. Yeah, the collaborative process works just as well using Zoom or any video conferencing platform as it did when in the old days when we got to meet in person, right?
Right.
Yeah, we're
And
working entirely remotely now. Our staff, our administrative staff, our clerks, our lawyers, all are working from home, and the lawyers have had that capacity for years, so that's no change for us.
And the benefits to these alternative methods of resolution are that they can often be more cost effective, they can be faster than attending court sometimes, and the parties have control over the process, whereas in litigation they don't.
Right. Yeah, it's a good point. And the courts aren't available now, so we got to take advantage of these other processes, and all of our lawyers have the skills to do those very well. In fact, I think about 80% of our cases are not court cases, and so this is normal kind of work for us, and we can help people get things resolved. So, well, thank you very much, Caitlin and Lynn and Rod, for your comments today. If you have some really difficult issues that you're facing regarding the isolation and you're being stuck in a bad relationship, give us a call. We'll have a consultation by way of Zoom or phone or Skype, whatever works for you. And we'll give you some advice about what your options are. And then you can decide where you want to go from there. So thanks a lot, everyone.